friends, welcome to Neetu's Library. Today we are going to move to the new chapter of our novel, The Mother I Never Knew. This is the chapter 7 named A New Life. Let's begin. Shurpali was a small village in Karnataka that had a temple of Narsimha and his wife Lakshmi on the banks of river Krishna. Thousands of people attended the annual fair held here. Bhagirathi was born in another village nearby. Her parents drowned in a flood when she was a toddler, and her maternal uncle Gopal Kulkarni offered to take responsibility of the orphaned girl. He was the village postman in Shurpali. Gopal's wife, Kaveramma, scolded her frequently. "Your parents have given you an apt name, Bhagirathi. You keep playing in the river all day." Gopal had a son, Hanuma, who was 5 years old, then Bhagirathi, and studied in Jamakhandi, a nearby town. Meanwhile, Bhagirathi studied up to the 4th grade. She was not allowed to study further because there was no middle or high school in the village. She didn't ask to study anymore either. Higher education for girls was unheard of in those days, and she had to help at home. As the years passed, Bhagirathi grew up to be a very beautiful young woman. She was fair and attractive and had long black hair. Many women were jealous of her. Kaveramma did not send her out alone often because she was afraid that someone might try to take advantage of her. Bhagirathi's only companion at home was Hanuma, who was now studying in high school. Her uncle and aunt started searching for a suitable groom for her. People asked Gopal and Kaveramma, "Why are you searching for a groom? Your son can marry her. That'll be perfect." "No, Hanuma and Bhagirathi have been raised like brother and sister. It will not be a good match," said Kaveramma. Hanuma, Bhagirathi and Gopal also agreed with her. The truth was that Kaveramma had completely different reasons for rejecting the match. She believed that there was no use of marrying her son to Bhagirathi because that way Hanuma would not get any dowry at all. But if he married someone else, he would get dowry and maybe other possessions too. She knew that Bhagirathi would somehow manage to get a groom. Eventually, Kaveramma's prediction came true. In those days, people who came to Shurpali for the annual fair stayed with their relatives because there was no hotels in the area. That year, Champaka and her son Setu Rao came to live in Gopal's neighbor house for a few days. The neighbor, Bhima Rao, had known Champaka's family from his days in Mumbai. Champaka was also from this area, but her husband had worked in Mumbai for many years and eventually he had passed away there too. After that, Champaka decided to continue staying in Mumbai. She supported herself and her son Setu by working as a cook in the Mutt in Matunga. Setu was now 22 years old and he was studying in Mumbai. The moment Champaka laid eyes on the beautiful Bhagirathi, she wanted her son to marry her. Kaveramma thought this is the best possible match for Bhagirathi, especially since there is no demand for dowry. Moreover, this family had no close relatives or a father-in-law who will trouble her or pass sarcastic comments. Gopal agreed with her too. Both the parties approved the alliance and the negotiations began. After a few days, the wedding date was set for 6 months later. During this time, Setu never said anything to Bhagirathi, nor did she expect him to. He never wrote her any letters either. Every day she sat on the banks of the river Krishna and dreamt about her future and the unfamiliar life in Mumbai. Meanwhile, Hanuma's exams were near, so he sat by her side and studied while she daydreamed. 6 months passed in the blink of an eye, and the marriage ceremony took place in the auspicious presence of God Narsimha. Since both the families were poor, only a few people were invited to the wedding. After the ceremony, Setu stayed in Gopal's house for 15 days while Champaka went to visit her relatives in other towns and villages nearby. Bhagirathi discovered that Setu was young, intelligent and very handsome. She liked him, and in turn, he loved her youth, beauty, and vivacity. The 2 weeks passed by in a flash. It was the end of Bhagirathi's marital bliss. Tears started flowing down Bhargava's cheeks. Venkatesh stared at her, dumbstruck. Time stood still at a memory that was more than 55 years old. At the end of that fortnight, Champaka laid down one condition. Her son's education must be completed that year as scheduled. His studies would be disturbed if Bhagirathi came to Mumbai with him now. She must stay back. After Setu's final exams, he would find a job. Bhagirathi should join him only after that. Gopal and Kaveramma agreed to her condition, but nobody asked the newlyweds for their opinion. The next month, Bhagirathi missed her periods. Soon after, the vomiting and the nausea started. It was confirmed she was pregnant. The news was sent to Mumbai. There was no reply for a few weeks. But then, one day, Gopal received a letter at home. Champaka expressed her joy, but she added that this could have waited till her son was employed. When Bhagirathi was in the 6th month of her pregnancy, Champaka came to the village to conduct the Simantham, a traditional baby shower. This was usually performed in the in-laws' house. But since it was impossible to accommodate guests in Champaka's one-room house in Mumbai, she and her stepsister Parimala came to Gopal's house for 1 week. 2 days after they had arrived, Parimala went to fetch water and overheard some women gossiping. One of the women said, Bhagirathi is always sitting with Hanuma on the banks of the river. Kaveramma should keep an eye on her. Who knows what's really going on? Added another woman who was extremely jealous of Bhagirathi and her handsome husband. Clever Gopal has married Bhagirathi to a boy who stays far away from here. The girl is so lucky. She was so intimate with Hanuma and yet she managed to find another nice boy. The first woman commented. These people from Mumbai must have fallen for Bhagirathi's good looks. They didn't even bother to find out more details about her. Did you know that she pretended to get pregnant right after her marriage? Even the midwife Hakinabi says that she is 7 months pregnant now. I think that she must already have been 1 month along at the time of her marriage. Parimala could not restrain herself after listening to this. She went and met Hakinabi immediately. Parimala asked her, I have heard so many good things about your expertise. Tell me, how is the health of our dear Bhagirathi? When do you think she will deliver? Without batting an eyelid, Hakinabi answered, Bhagirathi is doing very well. Her fetus is big. It may be 6 or 7 months old. By the grace of Allah, she'll give birth to a boy. I'll take care of her with all my heart. Then you must give me a good ilkal sari. Of course, why not? Parimala was now sure that Bhagirathi was 7 months pregnant and with someone else's child. She thought that she should wait till the Simantham was over and then she would tell her sister about her finding on their way back to Mumbai. The Simantham went off as planned. Champaka gifted Bhagirathi a pair of her old gold earrings, a green blouse and some fruits. She blessed Bhagirathi and said, I pray for a safe delivery. I will come back for your son's naming ceremony. Then she said goodbye, whispered Bhargava as she wiped her tears. We never met after that. It's almost like a movie, Venkatesh thought. He waited for her to continue. As planned, Parimala accompanied Champaka on her return journey and said, Sister, you're so innocent. You didn't find out about Bhagirathi's character before getting your son married to her? The girl's cousin, that boy Hanuma, is very intimate with her. You had already asked the couple to wait until Setu completed his education and found a job. Have you ever thought about how she became pregnant despite your instruction? Look at her belly. It's so big and so soon. The midwife Hakinabi and the other women in the village can't stop talking about it. At first, Champaka didn't quite believe her, but Parimala kept poisoning her mind. Champaka was already unhappy because she was sensing that Setu was distancing himself from her after his marriage. Suddenly, this became a good explanation for the drift. By the end of the journey, Parimala had completely convinced Champaka that Bhagirathi was already pregnant when she married her son. At home, Champaka tried to tell her son the truth. Look here, Bala, something's definitely fishy. Think, why didn't anybody in the village marry her despite her beauty? Unfortunately, you have become the unsuspecting victim of her charm. Promise me that you will leave her. But Avva, don't say a word. I know how the world works. She's a fallen woman and she will deliver in the 8th month. Think about it. You will become a father within 8 months of marriage. Even you were born after the 10th month. I am your mother and I want the best for you. I can't stay with a loose woman like her. You can stay if you want to. Parimala must have already spread the word among our relatives. I shouldn't have taken her with me. No matter what Setu said or did, Champaka did not change her mind. She sat down and wrote a letter to Bhagirathi's uncle. After a few weeks, Gopal received the life-changing letter. It was a bolt from the blue. Champaka simply wrote, "We don't want your niece. You can keep her. The baby is Hanuma's and not my son's. We will not take her back." Hanuma was furious. How can she say such things? I am willing to swear on anyone. Bhagi is like my sister. As it is, I was worried about how she would live with that devilish mother-in-law. What is Setu doing to correct this? Can't he convince his mother that she is wrong? Young and pregnant Bhagirathi collapsed in grief. At last, she told Hanuma through her tears, "Please go to Mumbai and meet my mother-in-law and husband. Fall at their feet and beg them for mercy. Tell them Bhagirathi is as pure as Sita. There is no Agni Pariksha in this Kalyug, otherwise I would have jumped into the fire and proved my chastity. Tell my husband that he is the only man I have ever been with. I want to go myself, but I can't travel in this condition, and uncle won't be able to travel to Mumbai alone because he doesn't know the local language or English." Hanuma put a reassuring hand on her shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I will go to Mumbai and bring your husband back." He had never been to Mumbai before, but his friend Chintamani Kale had gone there a few years ago to visit his aunt. Hanuma told Chintamani about the situation and the two of them travelled together to Mumbai. When young Hanuma got off the train in Mumbai early in the morning, he was confused upon seeing the big city. It was much larger than Jamakhandi and Bijapur. In addition, he didn't know Hindi or Marathi. Troubled, he turned to Chintamani. "Here's the address. But how will I find my brother-in-law in such a large city? Maybe we should go back." Then Hanuma remembered Bhagi's tearful face. He said, "No, I can't go back yet. I must find Setu first." It took a few hours for the two boys to locate the chawl in Matunga. When they reached Champaka's house, they found it locked. In Marathi, a neighbor asked them whom they were looking for. Setu Rao or his mother Champaka said Chintamani. Setu has a job interview in Pune, so both mother and son have gone there by train just this morning. When are they back? The neighbor shrugged. "I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days. Who are you? Why don't you leave a message for them?" Hanuma shook his head. The message he was carrying has to be communicated in person. Disappointed, the boys went to Chintamani's aunt's house. When they were resting in the afternoon, there was breaking news on the radio from Dadar railway station. The Deccan Queen, which had left Mumbai that morning, had met with an accident in the ghats on its way to Mumbai. Several bogies had turned upside down. The listeners were advised to contact the railway police for more details. Hanuma and Chintamani rushed to the railway station. There were so many people there. Some were in shock while others were confused and weepy. Hanuma was dumbstruck and sat down on the floor. Chintamani ran to make inquiries and came back with a sad face just minutes later. He told Hanuma that Setu and Champaka's names were on the list of the deceased. Hanuma started crying bitterly. "What am I going to tell Bhagi?" Chintamani said, "Don't give up, Hanuma. The railway staff is taking the passengers' relatives to the scene of the accident. Let's go there and confirm their identity before we think further." When they reached the spot, they saw that the bogies had rolled down right into the valley. Body parts were scattered everywhere. It was a ghastly sight. There was no way anyone could identify all the dead bodies. In the end, the railway department informed everyone that they were going to conduct a common cremation before the unclaimed bodies started stinking. Disheartened, the two boys returned to Jamakhandi the same night, along with a newspaper that contained the names of those who had died in the accident. Meanwhile, Bhagirathi was waiting at home, desperately believing that Hanuma would somehow convince Setu. She had not eaten properly since the letter had come from Mumbai. Sometimes she would get angry with the unborn baby and think, "Isn't it because of this baby that people are talking ill of me? Maybe I should starve myself so that it will die inside my womb. But what do I do? It's a part of me and a part of Setu too. The baby is my reason to live. Had I not been pregnant, I would have drowned myself in the river Krishna days ago." When Hanuma returned from Mumbai, Bhagirathi was waiting for him, all dressed in red like a married woman. When she heard that she had become a widow, she couldn't take it anymore and fell to the floor in a faint before anyone could catch her. A short while later, she went into labor. Instantly, Hakinabi was called for. She was surprised to find that Bhagirathi had a lot of fluid in the womb, which explained the big stomach. After 18 hours, Bhagirathi gave birth to a tiny premature baby boy. And that's how Shankar was born. No one rejoiced or celebrated his birth. He was an unwanted child. Stay tuned to listen to the next part coming soon. Thank you.